Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy G-Max, George Smith here, coming at you again, this time on a Thursday night for the GT3 side of Raceface. We are into round 4 at Kyalami. We were here for the GT4s last night. Joining me this evening will be my homie Stephen Koenig. Stephen, how are you doing, mate?
Absolutely fantastic. Coming off the GT4s last night and jumping into the absolute best that Raceface has got, the GT3s. I'm super excited and super hyped to see what every single one of these drivers can do around a little bit of a chilly Kyalami racetrack at night. And if you think, driving night and day, it's not a big fuss. When you're going up to speeds of over 200 k's an hour and those corners are coming at you in the dark, it gets pretty tricky.
It's definitely not an easy circuit to navigate, and doing so in the evening makes it a little bit harder. Very dark circuit, not a lot of lighting out there. We of course have headed over to our qualifying session. We'll start to see our qualifying times coming up on the board shortly as these guys finish with their outlaps and now start to get the grind times down. So very keen to see how these guys have brought to the table. I'm sure everybody has been, doing their best to make sure that they can come in here prepared, and I'm excited really for the GT3s. It's a little bit different to the GT4s, and the GT4s gave us some great racing last night, but the GT3s this time around are what I want to see, and we're gonna have to start to see some of these timings coming up. Jordan Sherritt gonna go out of the gate with a 139.9 to kick things off. Junior McCall going to come in with a 140.692, so 7/10 off the likes of Sherritt. JC Grobler in third provisionally, 8/10 off the likes of Sherritt with a 140.806. So, the top three getting well into the grind early on. And then we've got Kruger. He's 1.3 seconds off the pace in fourth place with a 141.247. So interesting to see Jordan coming out early. He's only, set one lap. He's already cracked into the high 39s. And I'd love to see what else he brings to the table. But, right now everybody trying their best to get out on track and just make sure that they can get these times in. You want to get a decent time to start at Kyalami. It's not a circuit that's easy to pass on. It's more about waiting for other drivers to make those mistakes that you can then take to your advantage.
Absolutely. As you saw in the GT4s last night, it becomes like a chess game at that point. You just got to wait for the right opportunity, the right mistake to happen, and that gives you the opportunity to get by. The other things the guys have to consider is to be very cautious of their tire pressures. Obviously, with everything cooling down a bit, they had to fiddle around with their setups, but we cannot forget that there is parts on Kyalami that can take these cars and send them flying across the circuit, as some of the drivers experience in the GT4, and that is the sausage curbs that are out there, including right at the end of Cheetah, going towards the final corner. Catch that at the wrong time, you're going to bin yourself in the wall faster than you can think.
Yeah, you have to be very careful and cautious out here. Following along with Darren King, we saw him better his time with a 141.121. Now, last week at Misano, I was, of course, a little bit man down, a little bit sick, still making a bit of a recovery. And Darren King and Jordan Sherritt had an incredible fight out on the track, I believe. So I'm actually excited to see what happens. Darren King, of course, our first real international guest joining us here at Raceface, which has always been just the South African League. And Darren King coming in from Fordzilla. And, if you've watched any sim racing, you'll have heard of Darren King, and an incredibly fast and talented driver. We are blessed to have the likes of him in our presence. So, I'm not trying to blow up smoke, but very cool for Raceface to be putting themselves onto that international list. Darren King and Jaroslav Honzik, also known as Jardia, of course, were meant to race in our endurance race that we held at Suzuka, but unfortunately there was some technical issues that led to them not being able to compete. So very cool to see Darren King coming over and joining for the GT3 side of things. 13 minutes left of quali at the moment. Let's pull up the standings as we see them. Jordan Sherritt in pole position. It will be JC Grobler to better himself, getting up into second place there. Just the 140.455 coming out there from JC Grobler. So he's getting closer to breaking into those 139s. Third place, Junior McCall. Fourth for Arno Vasaki. Fifth for Kieran Patterson. Sixth for Darren King. Seventh for Keegan Masters. Richard van Koller in eighth place. Ninth for Mark Antel. 10th for Morgan McCall to round out the top 10. Then down in 11th, we've got Brandon Kruger, Christopher Radloff in 12th, Christos Besson in 13th, Brian Lewis in 14th, 15th for Kurt Glashagen, 16th for Bernard Peters, 17th for Adrian De Beer, 18th for Sean Schutter, 19th for Franco Albertine, 20th for Bernard King, 21st for Johannes Greiling, 22nd for Noah Hendricks, 23rd for Ryan Ottens, 24th, I believe, would then be, or 25th for Etienne Kleb, 26th for Jason Gray, 27th for Johan Bego Grobler, 28th for Cameron O'Connor. Paul Gerber and Daniel Rowe yet to set lap times down at the bottom of the timing split. So, 30 pro cars in this GT3 split at Kyalami, and that is going to just mean that we get incredible racing on circuit. Hopefully everybody behaves themselves. I talked about this last night in the GT4s. The racing standards are being constantly monitored and improved, and Raceface has adapted to some of these live stewarding decisions and change the way that they are looking at incidents. So anything on these opening laps that you're caught to be doing will be punished quite severely. We can't have drivers losing out on the potential to race others because of negligent driving. So I'm hoping that the drivers have heeded the call to improve on that cleanliness in the start, try and get things as professional as the European counterparts have gotten it, and hopefully things go for the better. But yeah, 30 cars here at Kyalami, Jordan Sherritt leading the pack at the moment. 10 minutes remain of the quali session. So, Stephen, things can still change up in this time.
Exactly. Jordan Sherritt has got his work cut out for him because only 0.3 of a second behind him is Junior McCall. So he's got to be aware that Junior is going to be chasing him down. And also he's got JC Grobler going and chasing him as well in that third place car. So it's something they've just got to be aware of and try and suss it out. I mean, the race isn't won at the first corner, and having the guys so quick and right up against you, I think he's got a bit of work towards it. And I mean, such a massive field. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is going to be the most fun you're going to have with your clothes on going and watching this race, because we can see some fantastic dices in the coming. It's also glad to see that international guys jumping over, and I think Mr. King has got a little bit of work ahead of him as he's competing with South Africa's finest sim racers, duking it out on the Raceface server. As we jump on with Kruger, as he's making his way around the circuit, you can see how dark it is. 14 degrees ambient temperature and 14 degrees track temperature. Now that is going to play a little bit of an interesting game on their tire pressures and how they're going to warm up their tires. So I think it's a little bit of a thinking game at this point of how to keep things going. And I think early stages of the race is going to be one to watch.
Brandon Kruger, 2/10 up on his time, coming in through the S's on his 5th lap out at Kyalami here for the qualifying session. Coming up towards Leeuwkop, he has dipped down by a 10th, so he's still a 10th up on his previous time. This could be good enough to better himself up to 7th. Arno Vasaki, just bear in mind, is also up on his time. We see Brandon Kruger getting jostled down to 10th place as the likes of Christos Besson slots himself into 8th with a 140.785. Down into the Crocodiles, Brandon Kruger is up by 0.3 now and needs to hold it all together through the closing sector. Makes it down through Cheetah on the way down to Engwe, the final corner here. 0.4 up, he goes. Now, can he just hold the back end down? He will do so. The Lamborghini stays 0.3 up. Will cross the line with a 140.596 and jumps himself all the way up to 5th place. So brilliant time coming out there from Brandon Kruger in the Lamborghini. Drivers also up on their lap time. The likes of Morgan McCall from ATK Academy, the number 19, is currently up to 10th. He's making his way now down through the S's, and as he makes his way up towards Leeuwkop, you can just see he's got himself a nice bit of fresh air in front. He doesn't have cars putting pressure on from behind. So all up to Morgan McCall here to try and find some more time. Down to Mineshaft, up by 2/10 on his lap time, which theoretically could put him in front of Brandon Kruger, up in 6th place, or even potentially knocking Keegan Masters down from 5th. So into Crocodile, he's now lost a couple of tenths, up at 2/10 now on that 140.782. So potentially might find himself jumping up. And of course, Morgan McCall doing great job in the GT4 divisions, trying to mimic that out in the GT3s. He's found a 3rd, 10th coming out through Ingwe, will cross the line and jump himself up to 5th, does knock Keegan Masters down to 6th, and just 0.04 of a second between McCall and Masters. Masters out on track, might fire back.
Absolutely amazing. You take a look at that. The top 7 literally under a second of one another. And here we are jumping on with Sparmers, who's also looking to try and make up a bit of ground, see if he can push his way up through the grid for the qualifying of BWR Scorpions. And we'll have to see whether he can do it. Really battling to keep that portion line, and this is where it gets a bit tricky. Right here, you can lose a lot of time. The final 2 corners, hits that sausage curb, able to hold it though. Can he keep the momentum going to try and move up a position? Will he be able to get our 8th? Holding it down, really putting pedal to the metal here. And cross the line, unfortunately losing out and still keeping an 8th position. Still a very good time put in, but he is at the back and has to wait it out of the top 10. Arno Versace moving up into 3rd place, part of the Retro Sim Rainbow, and really throwing the Bentley around. Lovely to see a Bentley sitting that high up, especially after the success that its real-world GT3 counterpart had on this circuit. Keegan Masters really showing what he can do, part of the G4 Sim, as he's battling to try and keep up a bit of time. Knows the circuit like the back of his hand, and now is looking to find those precious couple of tenths of a second to push him out of 6th place and move him further up. He wants to get as close as he can to Sherrod and really see what he can do, but touching a little bit on the dirt there might cost him a bit of time into the final corner. It's all about keeping that back end under control. Puts on the power, really giving it everything he's got and coming across the line. Let's see if he's able to do it. Unfortunately not, losing a time, but still maintaining that 6th position. So I mean, it's going to be incredible looking at the standards drivers and how hard these guys are fighting. It's nice to see Kieran Patterson also trying to make his way around. Unfortunately, looks like he's really battling with the Porsche tonight, but I'm sure you'll get that all sorted out. Part of the Patterson Works Racing team, and I'm sure they're working as hard as possible to try and climb up. He's looking to try and go for the championship and get into the top 3 of the championship, as he's carrying that Patterson Works Racing Porsche around here at Kyalami.
Indeed. So Kieran Patterson, of course, sitting in 4th place in the championship so far, sitting on 40 points. Of course, there's a tie between Morgan McCall and Christos Besson for 2nd place. Jordan Sherritt leads things away with a clear 20-point lead over the likes of McCall and Besson. So it's going to be interesting to see if Patterson can find himself some more points here, maybe jump himself up on the likes of McCall and potentially the likes of Besson. Besson qualifying obviously just behind Patterson at this point in time, but it's not all over until the fat lady sings. 4 minutes left of quali. There's a couple of drivers that are still out on track. There's literally only 4 that have jumped back into the pits, should I say. The rest of them are still out trying to better their lap positions. And down towards the bottom of the pack, there's drivers all up a 10th on their times. The likes of Bego Grobler, Johannes Greiling, and then dead sort of on their same times. King, Ansel, Rowe haven't quite got themselves additional pace to get themselves out of the mid-pack just yet. Ryan Ottens from Kaike down in 23rd. He keeps showing that he finds 4 tenths and then seems to drop it down. So something not quite going right for Ryan Ottens just yet. But, you know, qualifying in the race, completely different situations. And right now, Jordan Sherritt looking like if he can hold on some of the pace that he's got, if he is 4 tenths quicker than the driver in 2nd for the duration of this hour-long race, it is going to be a interesting fight for what would be 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. in the championship here. So right now, up to the likes of Patterson to try and better his starting position. Darren King from Fordzilla, of course, is going to go up on his lap time. Unsurprisingly, up at 10th here, coming into Cheetah. And it's interesting, again, King here fighting against South Africans on a South African circuit. The majority of our fellow countrymen, of course, having spent a lot of time on the circuit. So King will cross the line, a 140.602 personal best for the evening's session coming out. Jumps himself up to 8th place on the grid tonight. Keegan Masters and Brandon Kruger in 6th and 7th are both up 1/10 on their time. Franco Albertine down in 20th. He's showing that he's up 4/10 and he's coming in towards Ingwe now. Let's see where Franco Albertine manages to hold this in 6/10 up. Now that's going to get him close to being within a second. This might jump him up with close to the top 10. Over the line, Albertine will go, and it will be 11th place for Albertine. So what a big bump in quali with only 1:43 to go.
Absolutely amazing. These guys really pulling a rabbit out of the hat, trying to push themselves that extra little bit. Something we have got to be mindful of is some of the cars are running ballast from the previous race. Take a look at Sherrod running 25 kilos on his car and still managing to maintain the incredible pace. It really gives it up to these drivers for putting in the amount of effort and really showing what they can do despite having some added weight on a couple of the drivers. As you can see, George Sherrod with 25 kilos on board. We've also got JC Krobler sitting with 10 kilos, Morgan McCall with 5 kilos on top of him, and rounding out of our ballast, we take a look at Mr. King with...
No, you've forgotten about Peters. He carries the 15 kilo ballast. So the ballast also being reworked over from last season. There was a lot more ballast for the drivers to carry, and right now it's almost gone down to what almost felt like the lowest tier of ballast that was available in the previous season. So 25 kilos, not as impactful as what we saw in the previous season, but also at the same time, it's a good rework. I think it was critical that those kind of things were addressed. And again, like I say with Raceface, just sort of forward thinking, open to discussions, have reworked the winning ballast, and I quite like the way that it's working now. And like you can see, and like you've mentioned as well, Stephen, 139.612 coming out from Sherrod, still carrying that extra 25 kilos. We know how strong these Porsches are. Kieran Patterson with a phenomenal lap previously. He managed to hold it together, got himself in with a 140.359, gets himself within the top 5. Darren King will slot into 5th with that 140.422, and just a 10th quicker would have gone Patterson. So down to 9th place, we still see that under a second gap between them. Qualifying comes to an end. We see a lot of our drivers jumping themselves back to the pit box as they've pretty much, I wouldn't say thrown in the towel, but they've accepted the outcome of quali this evening.
I think they're getting themselves focused and trying to work out, all right, how much fuel am I going to put in, because we also have that mandatory pit stop, and that, as we saw last season, can absolutely change the race completely. As we see King really giving it his absolute all. He wants to go right until the checkered flag of qualifying, see if he can maybe push himself up a little bit. Did lose a back end a little bit, but managed to hold it, coming across the line, but couldn't get any better than his previous time, keeping that sixth place spot.
The man who could potentially take that 6th place spot is JC Krobler. He's winding the Audi around the final exits of Kyalami here. He's made his way through the Crocodiles and now through Cheetah. He's up 2/10. So this potentially could even get himself into the Keegan Masters territory for 5th place. Out through Ingwe, he's found another 10-2. This is a quick time coming out from JC Krobler. He's going to go across the line, get himself up to 3rd place. Now that is a final lap qualifying that you want to see. Good job from JC Krobler in his Audi to get himself up there into the top 3, and also to give us a complete variance in our top 4 starting manufacturers: Porsche, Lamborghini, Audi, Bentley.
well, you got to be quite happy having your Porsches all there, but I'm very happy to see an Audi up there. One thing with the Audis is all about keeping on the power through the corner, and JC managed to just work it out, keeping that power going and push his way in front. But there we go, 1 hour, 20 minutes. They're going to do a full formation lap, and once those lights hit green, the race is on for an hour and 20 minutes. We got to talk about this. I am excited. I'm getting goosebumps. We're going to see the pros giving it their all right here at Kyalami at night. And I mean, this is going to be an absolute fantastic race. I can see this coming.
I mean, you want to play Nostradamus. I always kind of like to sit on the side of, let's see what comes. I'm hoping that we have the start that we need to have. It has to be clean. It has to be fair. Otherwise, for an hour and 20 minutes, people are trying to play catch-up out of position. It needs to be that clean start to give us a good race here. And I honestly, that sentiment couldn't come over any more in my commentary, because I just need our drivers to know that, that gives us the racing that we want to see on track. Fighting side by side can be done after the first lap. As long as everybody's out on track and able to, have a fair chance at doing so. So drivers able to now put those cars down off the jacks. Their fuel setups have been configured. They'll start to start their cars up. We see everybody getting their lights nice and bright and ready to highlight these apexes at Kyalami. Of course, an incredibly dark racetrack. Those lights will be much needed. So if you do have an off and happen to damage your lights, you're going to have to cost yourself some repair time in getting those done. So everybody here is making their way out. We will do that formation lap. Franco Albertine, I don't think, readied up in the starting sequence there and has been sent back to the pit stop. So Albertine, after putting in some big work, going to start from the pits, and that's going to be a bee in his bonnet for sure.
Definitely, and he's got a lot of hard work to really try and push the way up there. But Hassan getting himself ready, he wants to go and really push it right up to the top there. So fantastic to see the Am2Play guys. Had a chat to them before the race. They were all incredibly excited, going and supporting each other, and even the guys that are racing in the Pro-Am, giving each other a bit of advice how to go and handle it. Mr. King going around, Bernard King of Azure Racing, also looking to put in those incredible times. Don't count him out. We've also got Glashkin, who's going to try and battle out De Beer, Peters, Connor, Radloff, Ottens, Krayling, Hendricks, Schutter, Gray, and Bago Schrobler. Every single one of these guys can really push it to the top, and I see some fantastic racing. I do have to agree with something, though. The long-standing of liveries and the Porsche, and John Sherrod, part of the Raceface team, and the, that stunning purple front end. You can actually see the lights, and it's just something that is going to stand out for us, so we can see where he is in the grid. But as they make their way around Kyalami racetrack, the Grand Prix circuit, with a history that it is miles long, different variations of the circuit, and these drivers are going to take on the latest version of it. And I am absolutely excited to see what these pros can do as they make their way down the legendary mine shaft.
Trying to get some tire warmth into these tires. Of course, the track temperature dipping down now to 13 degrees, 10 o'clock in the evening, so a nice chilly condition set out for our GT3 class this evening. 2x2, they'll get the prompt to start lining themselves up into double formation as they make their way down through the crocodiles. Sherritt and McCall up on the front row of the grid. Versace, Grubler and Versace on the second row. Patterson and Masters on the third row. McCall and King on the fourth row. Kruger and Spammers hold up the fifth row. And that rounds out our top 10. So incredibly excited now to see how this race start goes. These anxiety moments are always sort of made even bigger by the fact that They have to keep the cars down to that 70-kilometer speed limit, and you're just waiting for that green light to indicate that we're racing, and it will be any minute now as Jordan Sherritt comes down. Green lights are a go. We are live here at Kyalami for round 4 of the Raceface GT3 season. Of course, this is season 3, brought to you by Resource Complete and Black Ribbon Sim. Sherritt going to defend, coming in on the inside line. JC Grobler going to contest on the outside line, and they are going to keep it quite neat and tidy, it looks like, on the inside as they make their way now through Barbecue. A good run from Patterson there. He's got himself up. He's been touched though. Patterson has been spun around in Barbecue, and it's a big off coming down through. Big chaos coming out and on the opening lap for the mid of the pack, and you can still see cars facing backwards in the order. It is the likes of the front of the order doing okay. Morgan McCall has survived. The likes of Basson, he's managed to jump himself all the way back up here. He was caught out by a couple of cars, but it does look like as things start to shuffle themselves around, if we lost Jordan Sherritt here?
I don't actually see him.
We have. He's back. Jordan Sherritt is still here. I thought we might have had a repeat of last week. It will be Sherritt in first place as they come down through the top of Leeuwkop down to Mineshaft. JC Grobler holds down second place. Junior and Morgan McCall from ATK in third and fourth. Junior, the younger brother, leading his older brother. Basson and Keegan Masters in fifth and sixth. Kruger and Gaber in 7th and 8th. So everybody in that top 10 still in this and fighting. I think the biggest gap coming down, Darren King, he lost out quite hard. He seems to have been contacted in some of the events that went down. We know that Patterson was impacted quite hard as well, as I'm sure a lot of these drivers will be jumping back to the pits if they need to make repairs, and that will indicate some of the drivers that potentially got caught off in that lap 1 chaos coming out of Barbecue.
It's a very difficult. Barbecue can catch you out. If you get on the wrong line, forget it. You ain't going to have much grip. And as we jump on with Noah Hendricks, he's really just chucking that Mercedes around. Goes out a bit wide though, and losing a little bit of time. Jason Gray also really battling it out in that Honda, trying everything he can to keep on going. But he's got Peters that is absolutely on his tail, trying to put as much pressure on him. Jason Gray just looking to try and pull away, but you can see Peters is not letting go, getting a little bit more drive out of Sunset, and really pushing on. And these guys are really doing everything they can.
Just to correct you there, they've just come into Sunset here. That was the drive out of Barbecue that they had, and Peters doing a good job to try and put that pressure early onto the likes of Jason Gray down at the bottom of the order. As so Cameron O'Connor, he's got the likes of Paul Gaber. Sorry, stream, we're just having a couple of audio issues at the moment. Getting a bit of feedback coming through from Steven's mic. He's just sorting that out. Sorry, we'll resolve that in a second. Steven, I can't hear it at the moment. Do you want to give us another audio tech?
All right, let's see if this is back up and going.
Okay,
As you can see, O'Connor really battling his way around, trying to catch up to Verstappen, and is really doing everything possible. Keegan Masters under some serious pressure though, and he is having to fight off the sun in that Audi.
Yeah, he's actually just made the pass, just coming up through the Yuxke sweep. So Masters getting past Basson. Basson now trying to answer back and try and get that position. But Keegan Masters, a brilliant driver out on circuits. Oh, I say that. He's made it all go wrong. He's clipped the inside curb coming into the S's. Masters will get shot off track. Can we get a little action-packed replay? We will be able to look at him clip the curb on the inside of the entry to the S's and loses it hardcore. He now has to get that car back on circuit. He's dropped down to 16th place with that small error. Daniel Rowe And it looks like Ryan Ottens are fighting it out here as well. It is Ryan Ottens that is on the back here of the likes of Daniel Rowe. They are going to go side by side coming down into the Crocodiles. Daniel Rowe on sorry, go ahead, Stephen.
Rowe just seems to be putting his car right in the middle of the circuit, trying to battle off Ottens. Ottens has to really try and dig deep, dives in on the inside, side-by-side action, heading into turn 1. And let's see, will Rowe be able to do a bit of a cutback here, or Ottens will be able to hold it, trying to put a bit of pressure on, managing to get ahead of Rowe. I've got to say, some fantastic driving came out of Rowe, immediately putting himself in the middle.
But he's opened himself up here. Potentially is the likes of Rowe. He's gone very deep coming into Crowthorne. That's going to allow Ottens to get away, and it is going to open up the likes of Rowe here to the... It will be Paul Gaba, I believe, from Team Tryhard, who's going to go side by side in that Nissan GTR through Sunset. Well, they're going to try it at least. They are going to stick it for now. Rowe still going to hold the inside line in that light blue Porsche. Now Rowe going to have to, yeah, good work from Gaba there to just tuck himself back behind for Clubhouse. And good drive coming out from that Nissan GTR, keeping Daniel Rowe in the G4 Sim Porsche honest.
Definitely some incredible hard work is being put down here. Noah Hendricks also looking to try and make a pass, really looking up and around De Beer. De Beer making it a bit difficult, lining side by side. De Beer just opening up for Noah Hendricks and has now managed to move up a position, but De Beer has got a problem. He is getting chased down and getting some pressure put on him by one of the BMs at the right behind, and that's Johannes Schreling looking to go on the inside. Decides that he's not going to be close enough to make a pass, but you can see how much these guys are really battling it out. Hendricks really doing everything he can to try and keep the car in check, and it looks like he's outbraked himself a little bit into turn 1. Might have cost him some time, as you can see, really having to fight this Mercedes around the circuit, and it's some incredible racing in the early stages of this race.
It is indeed. Jordan Sherritt, as expected, has checked out already. 3.1 seconds up the road from JC Groble in second place in that Audi. You can still see JC in shot as we have a look at Jordan Sherritt coming into the S's. But it is Morgan McCall to have taken a place off of his brother Junior. Morgan up into third place for the ATK Academy, and his brother Junior in fourth place, being chased down by Amp to Play's Christos Besson. So Junior here got himself a bit of free air to the likes of Besson for the moment. Besson, a quick driver, and will put pressure on. I see a battle is still brewing. Look at this. Adrian De Beer, Darren King. Who all is involved? It's Daniel Rowe up in the front of this. It's Adrian De Beer and Daniel Rowe. They're going side by side. Then we've got Darren King in that Ferrari just behind. And we've got Noah Hendricks in his Mercedes in 14th place. So it is still side by side for the likes of Adrian De Beer here doing a great job to hold the inside line. Late on the brakes goes Darren King. That's very deep, and contact has come in. They have made contact. Noah Hendricks manages to hold it off. Adrian De Beer has gone down, but that will allow the likes of Grayling to get himself past. And
Grayling just sitting in the wings there and just sucking up all those positions as the guys battle their way around. Very, very clever driving, but I wonder how much damage that Noah Hendricks has got on the front of his car. If he's got a little bit of damage to the front of it, and that might unsettle the car a little bit.
It might indeed. Grayling here going to challenge Rowe through the Uxkay sweep, and Grayling going to come out on top of that. So the number 16 BMW takes 13th place in the order of things. Noah Hendricks, he's taken the position off of the likes of Adrian De Beer, so he will hold 15th place. Brian Lewis and Jason Gray, they are still fighting out on circuit. Jason Gray getting incredibly competitive on the back end of Brian Lewis's number 75 Mercedes as they come down through Clubhouse. We see a little bit of dust being kicked up by the cars ahead. Gray going to lose out a couple of car lengths coming into the S's. Going to put that battle on ice. And let us jump back up to where things are still heating up. And that will be Noah Hendricks looking to have a big move on the inside. He will still have the likes of Adrian de Beer trying to fight him back. But Daniel Rowe now can just see this pack, this angry mob of GT3 cars chasing down in that rearview mirror.
Absolutely. All he is seeing is lights and chaos behind him as Hendricks looks to try go on the outside. Very brave, but unfortunately not able to do it. Gets right back into the toe and trying to get in that slipstream and get pulled along, but he has got De Beer immediately right onto him. Hendricks pulling into the pits though, maybe needs to go and do a little bit of repair, but at the same time, he can actually use this as his pit stop so he can keep on going for the rest of the race.
I think if there was any damage, it would have been driven around to that point where the pit window is open and he can take the repairs for his mandatory stop. Sean Schutter is trying to... I'm getting the feedback again coming from your mic, Stephen. So, sorry stream, we're having some technical audio issues and those will be resolved. Sean Schutter from EKZ is having a nice little fight out on track with the likes of Jan Spammers. Spammers is putting the pressure on Schutter in that Ferrari. The number 30 BWR Scorpions Porsche coming down through Clubhouse. We're going to get a little onboard splitter view as we chase them down. You get to see some of those lighting effects coming in from ACC. And Schutter going to ride a lot of curb on the exit through the S's, but is going to carry a lot of speed as well in his Ferrari. Up into Leeuwkorp in the braking zone they go. Schutter's quite deep on the brakes. Inside from Spam as he holds a nice solid inside line. Is this enough to get past? It will be enough to go side by side. They're going to just coming down into Mineshaft. They chuck it in and Spammers has got the move done just like that, coming down before the Crocodiles. Can he brake and hold the inside line again? Yes, he can. So Jan Spammers doing a good job there to get a position back. Jumping over to the likes of Richard van Kalle, Jason Gray, and I believe that would also be Brian Lewis in that Mercedes. They are also just fighting it up directly in the mid-pack right now. So Van Kalle is going to have to try and find a way past Lewis, because Lewis on the exit there having the speed needed. Jason Gray going to want Van Kalle here to put the pressure onto the likes of Brian Lewis, purely because he knows that that will allow him to move away without having to get too defensive. Those two drivers will cost themselves the time that they need, but Brian Lewis doing a good job to hold onto the back end of Jason Gray right now. Go to a little splitter cam if we can into the S's. Again, just erring on the side of caution. Lewis doesn't want to follow too closely to the back of Gray in case something goes wrong on the entry to the S's. We saw what happened to the Porsche, who clipped the curb and bottomed itself up, got spun around. So these GT3 cars can be quite sensitive if not set up for the correct ride height. Lewis will continue the chase down. I believe Adrian de Beer is also still battling it out here with Jan Spammers. So Spammers doing a good job at moving his way through the order. Again, he's so good at hitting those inside apexes and making sure that he doesn't run wide. And all the drivers that he's kind of come up to, it has been a late break from them that's allowed him to get that inside drive out. So the BWR Scorpions number 30, again, last time I saw Spammers drive, which wouldn't have been last week, the week before, he did a phenomenal job. And good to see him showing the same sort of standards out on track at this point as well. So Jason Gray hasn't been able to shake off the likes of Lewis just yet, or has he just shaken off the likes of Lewis? Lewis had a terrible exit coming out of barbecue. That's allowed the likes of was that Johannes Grayling that got... No, it wasn't. Grayling's in the BMW. Who has just got past the likes of Brian Lewis? Because that's the team Tryhard Audi, I believe. Or was that Van Coller? It's Van Coller that was ahead of Lewis there. So, again, Lewis making the mistake. That's allowed Van Coller to get by in that number 88. Adrian de Beer wide on the exits once again. Is that allowed the inside line to come in from Spammers? Are they going to go side by side through Mineshaft? Not quite this time round. The battle down for 17th. De Beer under attack here from the likes of Spammers. Or should I say Spammers? I think it's Afrikaans, and I get it wrong, and then I go back, and then I go back to English. I get them a little bit confused, and that's my bad. I will get better. Adrian de Beer, I've been practicing that one all week, so it like rolls off the tongue. I'm getting professional. Richard van Coller. I'm getting better if I say Richard's name. So all across the board, to be honest, I'm becoming a better broadcaster for all of our sort of variety of surnames that we've got here. Jason Gray, Van Coller, Lewis, still in this for the likes of 14th, 15th, and 16th. It's allowed Grayling to get a nice little gap going. And, look at how close. Look at how close Lewis is getting here to Van Coller. Coming down into Sunset, they go. Number 88 getting a little bit of oversteer on the inch or the mid corner and the exit, and that will allow him to get past the likes of Jason Gray though. So let's get a little 10 seconds back on that. Jason Gray is going to see the move coming, is going to give the space as well there. So good work from Jason Gray not to make a mistake there and close the door on Van Coller going alongside. So Jason Gray going to know not to exit and leave the inside open if there's an angry Audi leading the charge from behind. Brian Lewis, he's still trying to defend off the likes of De Beer. From that rear view splitter cam, we can see Lewis's angry Mercedes spitting sparks as the car bottoms out. And again, Spammers is there giving De Beer a bit of a hard time. If we go to De Beer's splitter cam or rear wing cam, we'll be able to see the likes of Spammers in that number 30 Porsche putting on pressure. So Porsche first Porsche for 17th and 18th place.
De Beer has been battling his way around the circuit the whole time. I don't think he's had any moment to breathe because he's constantly had guys chasing him down and having to work incredibly hard around the track.
Indeed they are, and right now Gray is putting on some pressure here. Needs to put that pressure back on to Lewis, and he won't. He'll get a little nudge from behind. He runs very wide. That's allowed Spammers. Look at the drive coming out from Spammers. He's going to go side by side. Are they going to go 3 cars wide here? And De Beer has to dive out, almost comes into contact with the back of Spammers. Spammers still holds it in. Jason Gray now will have the inside line that he lost out earlier. You see him not wanting to repeat the same mistakes. And that Porsche putting so much pressure onto the backside. They are going to go side by side coming down into the S's. Our cameraman not being able to capture exactly the entry, but Spammers will not be able to get through the S's. Not a place that you can really make overtakes happen. De Beer going to try it round the outside. Schutter has caught up to the likes of De Beer now because of all the battling going out on track. So now Schutter from EKZ Motorsport in that number 14 Ferrari will start to have a little look-see. As we look down this side of the order, we also start to see drivers that have served those mandatory pit stops. Hendricks, Rowe, Peters, Radloff have all served their mandatory stops and will still be out on track, giving a bit of a change in position a little bit later on in the race, because they've obviously gone for a very early undercut type strategy, or they've had incidents where they needed to do those repairs early on and just now need to try and improve on those race positions. So I think for now, this is really where the battle sits in the mid-pack. Up at the front, of course, Jordan Sherritt, having a bit of a lonely race like we mentioned earlier on, continues to make it a lonely race, increasing that gap to 5 seconds at the last timing interval. The last lap time being run from Jordan Sherritt was a 140.830 race pace. His best lap so far this race, a 140.647. So just a little time to be able to plug the Raceface Speed Labs program. If you guys are interested in getting some driver training, Raceface has a Speed Labs training center that allows you to go and have some one-on-one training sessions with the likes of Jordan Sherritt and Bruno Cadilli, and you can really improve your racecraft. You can also find those small little mistakes that you're making that you can improve on to get those better lap times. There are group sessions also available. If you head over to the Raceface.Pro website, all the details that you need to find are there. Whilst talking about Raceface, and we've got this beautiful Raceface themed livery, of course the Raceface Speed Lab / GTWR esports team. That's who Jordan Sherritt represents. GTWR doing amazing things. We saw them win the Sim Grid 10 hours of Suzuka. I think it was last week or the weekend before. But yeah, so Raceface has a Discord channel. If you guys are not a part of it, please make your way over. Join up with the Raceface side of life. Plenty of things happening events-wise. There's GT4s on Wednesdays, GT3s on Thursdays. We, of course, are in Season 3 for the GT3s. GT4s are in their Season 1. And the calendar this time around is only 6 rounds long. So as we are in round 4 now, you can sort of expect the next race calendars to start getting finalized and registrations for the next seasons to begin. So that's my plugs done and dusted. Well, not quite done and dusted, because everything has also been brought to you today by Resource Complete and Black Ribbon Simulations. So I know that prize-wise, a little cheeky prize thrown out by Black Ribbon Sims is those Sparko Esports racing gloves for the winner of the GT3 championship at the end of the day. So his drivers out on track fighting for not only pride but some cool sim gloves too. And if anyone else wants to get in contact, wants to get in partnership, wants to get involved with the sponsorship side of things, please don't hesitate to reach out from Batis to Batis Hugo from Raceface. He's an incredible gentleman. He's more than happy to facilitate any ideas that you have. And if you want to incorporate something into this big schema that is sim racing, please don't sit back and not say anything. Reach out and have a look with us. So 57 minutes left of the race. Stephen, how are you finding things? Is your microphone doing okay? Are you with it? Are you with me? Are we here? Are we alive?
Sort out my microphone issue. Sorry about that, crowd. Has been on the top of his game and running away from JC Krobler, 5.4 seconds behind the leader. I mean, Sherrod, every time he climbs into a car, he absolutely dominates wherever he goes, and is definitely showing what he can do right here at Kyalami. And he seems like he's just having a Sunday drive at this point. Doesn't matter if it's day or night, he goes and pushes it to the limit every single time.
Indeed he does. Mephisto asking what the pace is of P1. His last lap that he did was a 141.7, which is a bit of a slower lap coming out. His best lap was a 140.6 there. A 140.9 was the last lap that he did. So sort of sub 141s coming out race pace at the moment. Morgan McCall and Junior McCall have been able to match such things with their best times. JC Krobler as well. But it really comes down to being able to do it lap after lap, and Jordan Sherritt doing exactly that, just being able to hold that consistent pace down. Keegan Masters going to be putting some pressure onto the likes of Ryan Ottens. This is a battle that I do want to follow along because, of course, we've got some Porsches on track. We see the likes of Daniel Rowe in 21st place. He's going to be a backmarker in this situation, that blue Porsche in the front. Inside line coming out from Masters. He's going to rob Ottens blind at the exit of Growthorne and going to leave Ottens looking for his wallet somewhere tucked under the seat.
Absolutely beautiful move by by Masters, and he's definitely using everything he can to try and get past Ottens, managing to get past, and just wants to keep making a gap. Albertine, though, is really pushing as hard as he can with the Audi. Audi being a little bit trickier around the circuit, but he's making it look like it's absolutely easy. Now, obviously, it's 55 minutes left of the race, and we've got quite a few guys out there. What are your thoughts? How do you think the pit strategies are going to work for the top guys? I mean, within about 2-3 seconds of the top four, all battling it out. So, what is your thoughts into it? Do you think it's going to be an early pit stop? Do you think they're going to leave it right till that pit window closes? Where do you see this going?
How about this time around? You tell me your thoughts on their pit strategies, Stephen.
I was waiting for something like that. Okay,
You want to throw me under the bus, I throw you back under the bus.
I think you threw me underneath the train. But taking a look at it, the guys are really doing everything they can. Now, I know a lot of guys complain about the tire wear on the Porsches, uh, mainly the front starting to wear out. So I could see them going until there's about 30 minutes of the race, really pushing it right to the end of that pit window, getting in the pits and getting back out, trying to gain as much time as possible. But they have to be aware that first of the guys that have pitted is Noah Hendricks, who unfortunately did take a bit of damage, but still went out and charged his way. He's lying in 20th place, so he can make up a bit of ground. But I do believe these guys are going to leave it right to the last minute, and we're going to have the whole swamp of cars into the pits. But Keegan Masters really doing an absolute bang-up job. He's chasing down Basson, but he has got the problem. Ottens is right on him, and King is also just putting a bit of pressure there. So there's a bit of hard work going on there, and we'll have to see whether Masters will be able to keep up the momentum and not cave underneath the pressure.
Yeah, I think Master's doing okay at the moment. He did manage to get himself past the back marker of Rose, so he's got that light blue Porsche between himself and Ryan Ottens. He can really put his head down here and focus on what's ahead of him, which will be Christos Basson in that. That's not Christos Basson that's the Mercedes being blue flagged. That's his teammate. That will probably be Noah Hendricks in 20th place. I believe it is Noah Hendricks. It is the 901. He will be jumping out of the way at his first convenience. Oh, you don't really have to jump out of the way in GT3 cars, should I say, but when you're not battling out on track and someone is coming to just lap you, you've got the blue flags and he's right on your tail. You just do a little lift off, let him get past safely. But Noah Hendricks going to force Masters to drag him down. And good job from Noah Hendricks there not to lose out on speed. So he's going to be able to hold on. Otten's going very deep in the background there, which potentially going to lose him out of position if he's not careful to the likes of Darren King. Darren King is starting to get closer. I mean, Darren King, after having that first lap controversy through barbecue, has made his way all the way up to 11th place. I don't think he puts it for any damage, but Ryan Otten's now going to have to really dig deep to hide off against the likes of King. You saw hot King came into Clubhouse, wasn't expecting Otten's really to be going at that speed through, so that's sort of forced King to back himself out a little bit. But Ryan Otten's here gonna have his hands full of fun when it comes to defending against a master like Darren King.
Well, the thing is, they also got to be mindful of this. Ottens has to also be, really chomping at the bit here, because Rowe and Hendricks, Rowe managing to get a pass of Hendricks, but Hendricks and Rowe are in their own little battle just ahead of him. So it's really battling their way around. As you can see, Rowe is really trying to get ahead of Noah Hendricks, trying to keep a little bit of momentum though. But Otten's starting to climb onto the back of him, and you can be sure that it's going to turn into a battle. Cameron O'Connor really battling his way through, but Ryan Otten's from Kai K really putting pedal to the metal, trying everything he can, needs to build up that momentum. He needs to get away from King. King is really going to try and force a mistake out of him. Schutter, now in a battle of his own though, really trying to hang on for dear life. as he is trying to keep Bernard King at bay. And this is turning into quite a little battle for him. He has to keep his head tucked down and not focus on his rearview mirror. He needs to nail those apexes and battle his way around. Sean Schutter of EKZ Motorsports making sure that that Ferrari is going to get right up to the top. But Bernard King is giving him a good run for his money, lying in 18th place. So the guys are really doing everything around the circuit, really pushing the tires to the limit, and also trying to force each other into a mistake. As we said at the beginning of the race, it's all about trying to force your opponent into a mistake. Not too many corners to try and make a good overtake, as it's a very technical circuit, and it's going and keeping these drivers extremely busy as they battle their way around. Schutter doing everything to maintain that Ferrari. You can see gets a little bit loose every so often, braking on that 50-meter board, going in hot, and trying everything he can right until the last minute, heading into the S's now, and is trying to force his way around, really battling with that Ferrari to keep it in check, really running on the nice edge every single time. He's trying to catch up to spammers right in front of him and make up that ground. JC Krobler lying in second place. Morgan McCall, though, is ready to put a huge amount of pressure on him.
He is indeed, and he is making those slight mistakes because we see an 8-second gap which has evolved over to the likes of Sherritt, which means that JC has actually dropped back. It's 3/10 at the last leaderboard split time to the likes of McCall. And Morgan is going to be wanting to get that second place. He wants the points here. He wants to finish as far away from Christos Besson as possible. Besson is sitting in 8th place, so a decent amount of points difference between the two if things were to end now, but 48 minutes says differently to me. And JC Krobler, a talented driver in his own respect, has had a interesting history in sim racing, or the sim racing that I've been a part of, and he's really been there from quite an early time in joining into the commentary side, and I've watched him evolve as a driver. What was quite an aggressive driver in the old days, someone that was quite risky out on circuits, has really improved on that racecraft side of things, and is such a good, fun driver to watch on the circuit nowadays because he always had the pace. He never lost that. He always was fast. But now the fact that he can really stick it and race with some of the top drivers in the country, it's a pleasure to see, and that's what you really want to see, and those are the stories that you want to see evolve. So JC Krobler, big work from him coming out to change the way that he was perceived, change the negative attitudes, and really start to stick it to people with the results side of things. So always good to see people improving, and until proven wrong, again, you can only really touch on people's improvements in those kind of things. So the number 13 doing a great job here, and to be fighting against Morgan McCall, who is, he was picked up by ATK Arena as one of the academy drivers. It was him and his brother both picked up. So, for a big org to see sort of talent in someone, that they've got some talent out on track. We've seen the McCalls doing things. JC Krobler doing a great job at the moment, and if he can get a second place here, you can fight off the likes of McCall to the very end. He's going to be well chuffed with that result, but it's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. The McCalls are making dead sure. Morgan McCall is absolutely hungry for that position, and JC has to really work hard and dig deep. Main thing is not to kill off those tires too soon. As we know, the Audi is a bit of a tricky car. It's very, very twitchy, and that can cost him, but he's trying to use as much as the road as possible, gain as much momentum in and out of those corners. But you can see Morgan McCall looking left and right, is hunting for a way to get past, and I think Morgan's going to make a call heading into the S's. He might be close enough to try and do a bit of a dive there, but brilliant work from the AT Academy team
as Morgan McCall is really showing what he can do out there. But at the same time, Junior McCall is sitting in the wings waiting for a mistake. So we can't count Junior out of the race. I still see this being a three-way battle for second place.
So it looks like Krobler may have overdriven these tires in his Audi a little bit. It does look like he's struggling for some grip, especially through the S's. He does a good job to maintain that gap that he has to the likes of the Lamborghini, but really can see Morgan McCall chucking his Lambo into the corners versus JC, who almost feels like he has to nurse it in through. So it will be interesting to know if some of that tire degradation has come out a bit early. Very wide coming out from JC. Good call from Morgan McCall, though, to jump into the pits. He's not needing to, lose time out to the likes of Krobler. You can't get past him. You saw him on the flashes for a long time. Junior going to stay out, see if he can get himself a bit of space out to the likes of his brother Morgan. So it will be interesting to see where Junior is going to come in with the pit stop strategies. Of course, their dad, Roberts, such a critical part of their little team. He does a lot of the management and things for them. I'm always interested to know if he, sits back from an outside perspective and is able to make some of the pit stop strategies, like having a real strategist with you. A lot of the drivers do that in their teams, with a driver that sits in the lobby with them and sort of plays as a spotter. But very cool for the McCall's dad to be so involved in their racing and really putting their passion on the line and allowing them to, have the space to compete and pushing them to the limits indeed. So Spammer's here on screen once again. It looks like he's just on track at the moment with a couple of cars out of position as he's made his way past some back markers. So still out, not yet served his pit stop. One of our front running pit servers then will be Morgan. He will come out of the pits down in 9th place. Will find himself behind the likes of Krayling in 10th. So still out of track or out of position. He will now want to try and get past all of these cars on circuit as quick as possible. Just as a little bit of an indicator, the sort of lap pace coming out, Krayling is doing 142.8s and Morgan McCall doing low 141s, capable of doing 140s. So when he gets stuck out in position here, it will be he'll be stuck behind Van Coller. So it is still the same pace. It was just a different car that I was looking at. Krayling in that BMW is just up the road from these guys. We see him in shot now. So Van Coller is the driver that now will be sort of holding Morgan McCall at bay and won't have to do so for too long. We'll go wide on the exit at Leeuwcorp and inside line will be snapped up just like that from Morgan.
Morgan instantly trying to lean on him a little bit, just trying to say, give me a bit of room here. I want to get back up to the top. But you can see Van Coller is not done yet, still wanting to fight it out. He is on the older tires, but he's really doing everything he can to try and keep up with Morgan McCall, which is absolutely fantastic. Farmer's also just really trying to keep himself going and keep him clean, but looking to go side by side against one of the Lambos and really losing out a bit of pace there. But Spammer's pulling into the pits for his pit stop. So it's going to be interesting now. Guys are starting to come into the pits, get themselves organized, and get back out there. And that's still leaving Sherritt to come into the pits. O'Connor, Masters, and Ottens of our top 4 still need to get into the pits. But JC Krobler pulling in the pits, getting back out, and still maintaining at 5th place. But he has got Krayling right on the back of him.
So these are the sort of positions you want to find yourself in if you are not going into the pits early on. That would be Ryan Otten. So staying out on track. He doesn't have anyone that is battling with him for this position that he holds down, which is 4th place. And, he's going to catch up to back markers. But given the pace and, why a back marker is a back marker, he should get by them without any problem. O'Connor is going to jump into the pits. So Cameron O'Connor will pit from 2nd place, so going to come in at that 40 minutes to go mark. The pit window open for another 30 minutes here at least for the drivers to complete those stops. So, a fair whack of the field has really competed their stops here at the moment. I mean,
Well, this is where the race starts heating up. With 40 minutes to go, the guys have pitted,
I was just
and now
I was just trying to do a little quick count there. It looks like sort of 9 drivers still to pit. So majority of the field having served a relatively mid-race pit stop or towards the early side of things. And these drivers that are staying out then will be interesting to see how it works out for them, because for a lot of the times I see the undercut working out almost every single time for drivers, unless you really have the time and the pace that puts you apart from the guys going in. A lot of the times the guys come in, they get out, they put themselves away from those on-track battles, and then the likes of second, third, fourth, who have not yet pitted, start to fight it out. In this case, it's not the same case and not the same scenario, so the extended pit stop strategy may work out for everybody here more than an undercut would. So I do like the dynamics of racing, and I like sort of the different ways that things work. A battle on track for position. Etienne Kleb under pressure from Versace, both cars having gone into the pits. So this is a battle for position.
you can see Versace just sitting in the mirrors, keeping in that toe, waiting for a mistake to happen. Looks on the inside, but Etienne Kleb, being a brilliant driver like he is, goes immediately on the defensive, trying to hold back. He knows Versace is quite a person to keep behind him and is doing everything possible. Versace getting a little bit out of shape there through the X or the S's, losing a lot of time, but Etienne Kleb is doing everything he can to defend his position, and it's turning into quite a battle. To play really going to have to cheer on as you see Johannes Freiling pulling into the pits just out of shot, but jumping on board with Van Coller, who is keeping back Junior McCall, but Junior is on the fresh set of tires. So let's see if Van Coller will be able to keep Junior at bay, or is he going to let him go and then focus on keeping those tires a little bit more alive to get him 1 or 2 laps before he gets into the pits.
You know, I don't think Van Coller just lets anybody go for free. He makes everybody fight for it, and you know, it makes it a little bit harder for him to defend with those older sets, like you said. So he doesn't really have to let someone by. He knows that he's at the disadvantage with the older sets. So the longer that he holds up other drivers, only benefits him in the longer run, because you know what, doesn't really matter for me. This driver's gone and served his pit stop already. We're on completely different strategies. If of course they have a contact in a collision, then it's a completely different factor. But as things stand on the inside, McCall will outbrake himself, Junior, and those are almost the hilarious moments that Van Coller will be smiling about. So you've got Junior McCall on the flashes all the way from the exit of Clubhouse. Flash, 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 flash. Through the S's. Flash, flash, flash. Up to Leocorp. Outbreaks himself. Van Coller's on the outside. Cuts back through. And once again, McCall going to be back on the flashes here. And those don't affect the likes of Richard Van Coller. He does not care about them. He's going into the pits anyway. And Junior McCall will be happy about that. He doesn't have to use the flashes. He can save some of the battery power in the Lambo for another day. And
definitely, and I think Van Coller's got a big smile on his face there, but it's so easy to do. Coming up to the, going into the mine shaft and really having to battle your way there. You come over the rise, you just have to be on the brakes at the right time. Otherwise, you go and outbrake yourself so quickly. And I think McCall was so busy going, just move out my way. I need to carry on going. Not realizing Van Coller and him are actually racing for position and losing a little bit of focus.
He knew 100% that they're racing for position, but he knows that Van Coller still has to go into the pits. So to him, like, there's no point. Like, why are you even racing me? You're gonna have to go into the pits. I'm gonna get past you anyway. And Van Coller's saying, well, just wait for me to go into the pits, mate. So I think he's well aware. That's why he's on the flashes, and he's saying to him, well, in my mind, you're a back marker at this point because, well, you have to jump into the pits. So Kleb and Versace, they're still knifing it out at Sunset now on their 25th time around the circuit in the race conditions. And that 26th lap going to be started up from Masters this time around as Jordan Sherritt's our race leader, goes into the pits. Is it a quick stop and go coming out from Sherritt? It will be interesting to see where he comes out compared to JC Grobler. Grobler is actually going to come out. Grobler might take the race lead here. He might have worked this out. He won't. He won't indeed. I got a little bit too excited. Jordan Sherritt going to exit the pits, but it's a most certainly smaller gap than what JC Grobler had before. I mean, we saw that 8.5 seconds gap being the indicator before the pit stops being there. We'll need to wait for them to go through the sector timings to get a bit of a closer update, but I think it's closer to about 3 seconds. So Grobler's pit stop maybe working out for him. Like we said, the undercut coming through potentially. They are 3.4 seconds. So you can see those undercuts do still kind of bode to be true, even if the drive out on track has the pace. So the gap does get munched down, but still enough padding there to work out. Keegan Masters then will be gifted the blessing of now leading the race, getting a bit of stream time out as like a race leader change. We've had Sherritt leading the way, but Keegan Masters, of course, one of the last remaining drivers to actually serve those pit stops. So Masters, Lewis, and Kruger are the only drivers here today that are actually listening to your strategy, Stephen.
I think it's going to be a little bit of a...
Ooh! That's not what you want to see there. Van Coller parked sideways at the top. Can we get a little 30-second replay coming out? And can we try and get a little look at Van Coller? Let's see if we can. Richard Van Coller here is going to come out through Crocodile. Big slide coming out. And it fishtails round. He clips the back end. And then he tries to roll it back towards the pit side. Doesn't clip the wall. But, oh, he blocks the pit entry there for Masters. So Van Coller, you know, in almost 9 out of 10 situations there, being in the right place, moving out of the racing line after the incident. But good work from Masters not to come into contact. He's had a bit of warm-ups at Monday Night Racing and the such. So if you guys are looking for casual racing and you do want to get involved with this kind of thing and get ready for the leagues, come and join us on Mondays with the Monday Night Racing crew. They run the same circuits that the Raceface League calendar runs. So if you want to get sort of league ready and have some fun on track, the Monday Night Racing Discord is there. All the links and things can be found, of course, from the Raceface Discord. It's kind of everybody runs a little hub for one another. So if you just join one Discord, you can pretty much get in touch with everything. So if you want to do anything sim racing, just jump over to the Raceface Discord. So Sherritt will then take over the lead once again. McCall gets past the likes of JC Grobler. So Grobler here will sit in third place. He's now sandwiched out between the two McCall brothers. And Morgan McCall is going to be the one leading the charge potentially to Sherritt. But we see just almost immediately that Jordan Sherritt has found another second on that gap when they exited the pits. And good work coming out from the Speed Labs instructor in the Raceface League. You know, just showing us why we need to all go and make use of those Speed Labs training sessions.
Exactly, and also having the one-on-one with the driver is absolutely fantastic, and also having group sessions. So Raceface really giving everything it can with the Speed Labs. But we jump back and you can see Etienne Kleb and Arno Versaki duking it out. Not much space between the two of them, and Arno Versaki really pushing Etienne Kleb to absolute limit. The Bentley and the Aston taking each other on, and this is pretty much, it seems like a James Bond versus villain moment at the moment, as the Aston is having to keep the Bentley at bay. But Versaki right up against him, that you can't even put a ruler between them. Absolutely phenomenal racing between these two.
It's what you want to see, and continuing to push themselves after all the pit stops have been served. They've got themselves nicely into the top 10. Round the outside, Versaki will go, but Etienne Kleb, the master of defense, holds that inside line. We see the defensive line having to be thrown out there hard by Kleb, and Versaki is going to have to try a different way past the Aston Martin. Kleb, like I said, just really is so good at making every car he drives into the widest car available. And this is where both drivers are going to be trying to put themselves under extreme pressure. Masters is Masters. What did Masters just sneak his way in like that? I'm going to have to watch this again. Look at this. Masters comes in. He's like, oh, you guys are battling out inside a clubhouse. Vasaki sees it coming, gives the space through. Masters comes through, and he just decides that, you know, you guys have had enough of this. I want to come and party too. So he slots himself into the middle of the battle between Kleb and Vasaki. So it now becomes Kleb, Masters, Vasaki, and then Darren King holding down 10th place in that 138 for Zilla Ferrari. He's not that far behind this little train. So as soon as Masters starts to put that pressure on to the likes of Kleb, which will be almost immediately, and he's got the likes of Vasaki putting pressure onto him, that means that Darren King is going to love this. And Etienne Kleb has run wide through Cheetah. Now will Masters be able to make some space up through Ingwe? He does run quite deep and wide. He has to go very wide to avoid the back end of Etienne Kleb's Aston Martin. This has allowed Arno Vasaki to go alongside with him, and they will drag it down. Through the kink they go on the way down to Crowthorne. Vasaki has got alongside. Masters later on the brakes will try round the outside. On the inside stays Vasaki, but round the outside Masters will keep the work done. Through the Uxke sweep they now begin to go, and Etienne Kleb can just see the battle behind him brewing. He knows that he has to do everything to keep this behind. He needs them to fight it out for him to extend the gap, but Masters is not allowing him any space to do so. Into Sunset now they go. Will Masters try have another look on the inside? You have Etienne Kleb. Kleb going to stay very inside. That's going to force Masters to go round the outside through Clubhouse. That's opened up the inside for Vasaki, and now coming into the S's on the 29th lap, Vasaki will try and hold the inside line. Masters going to give some space, and both of them going to compromise their exits through. That's going to allow Darren King for Zilla to enter into the arena.
Absolutely amazing racing. You could see King really battling out Darren, trying everything he can, now joining into the party. And I think Etienne Kleb now getting a little bit of breathing room, is sitting behind that helmet going, what on earth have I gotten myself into? As he just sees the Porsche, the Bentley, and now the Ferrari chasing him down. He's got a lot of hard work, but Arno Vasaki has to now deal with Darren King of Fordzilla, our international racer, coming and joining us. And you can see he is going to have an absolute ball, but has really got to work to get past Vasaki and Masters before he can even get to Kleb. So this is turning into quite a heated battle. 27 minutes left of the race, and you can be sure that it's going to go in an absolute flash as these drivers go and run the clock down, really giving it their all.
Kleb seems to have found some extra power mode in his Aston Martin. He was like he was running around in a safe rain preset, and he's managed to just bump it over into quali, because he's put up almost a second's gap between himself and the likes of Masters. Masters now gets it down to 8/10 only, and that's enough space though for Etienne Kleb to drive his own racing line, not have to get defensive. And you can see almost immediately it just opens back up that pack behind them. Them not fighting it all out allows Masters to now get back closer to Kleb, allows Vasaki to get closer to Masters, and then King is just waiting. Like you said, he's on ice. He wants to be put out into the ballpark. He wants to show what he can do, and he's just waiting for that opportunity to do so. Any of these drivers giving that sort of slight contest is going to force them into the defensive line, cost them the time on track, and that's going to open things up for the 138 Ferrari. So he's just waiting patiently in the background for that to happen. Noah Hendricks is showing that he's up in a battle, which he's not. Christopher Radloff is showing that he is, and this will be to two Mercedes is fighting it out, and it will be Lewis going on the outside now through the exit of Ingwe. We saw Christopher Radloff having a bit of a struggled exit, and will now go immediately defensive to try and hold off Lewis. Lewis going to try it round the outside. We've seen it work before. We've seen Masters do just that. And Radloff now is going to potentially lose out. He will, Lewis with the better drive out will get that move done. But jumping back over to the battle up front, Etienne Kleber's lost out hard here. Masters has got the move done, but there's contact coming through. Kleber's been sent off, Masters has been sent off, and it's been absolute chaos coming through. Kleb rejoins the racing circuit, goes side by side, but Darren King waits it out, gets his reward. Vasaki goes through clean as well. Let's try and see if we can get a little replay of what happened down here. So Masters will see him make the run down into T2 of Crowthorne. A little bit argy-bargy coming in. Etienne Kleb not 100% happy with that. Does make contact coming back in, and the rejoin comes back on there from Kleb. Allows King to get back through unharmed, but not the kind of pass that we wanted to see with such great racing building up there. It was an unfortunate scenario. It looks like Masters going to have been sent back to the pit box now, so that's absolute disasters for Masters. The car unable to continue its drive round. Kleb will continue to stick it out, and of course I'm sure the stewards will have a look into the procedures that played down there. We are not race stewards, we are just the voices that call out the cars go brah, brah, vrr, vrr around the racetrack. We don't make these stewarding decisions.
We definitely just see if we can make as much noise as the race cars. But jumping back, you can see Kleb looking to try and put the pressure on Darren King. King now got his eyes fixed on Arno Fasaki. Fasaki's got a little bit of breathing room to him, but he cannot back off at any moment, as he's going to have King chasing him down, and Kleb is right there in the works as well. But Darren King, absolutely phenomenal driving from his part, sticking back from the action, watching what's going on, and just waiting, giving himself that breathing room, creating that bubble, waiting for the opportunity, and managing to get it. As we jump back to Sherrod, 32 laps in so far, and he is absolutely throwing that Porsche around, goes a bit wide, but is really showing what he can do. 4.1 seconds away from second place. So he is really doing everything he can to try and maintain that first position. But Morgan McCall of the ATK team is right there with JC Frobler trailing behind, hoping to try and retake that second place. Absolutely phenomenal driving from these guys. 23 minutes left of this race right here at Kyalami, and track temperatures have gone down to 12 degrees, so the guys are working with it. The action is heating up on the circuit, and I can't wait. The final 10 minutes, we're going to see everyone pull out all the stops and really give it their absolute all.
Yeah, you know, the driving has been great so far. I've got, you know, a couple of sort of comments to make on some of the potential moves that have, you know, we've seen. But overall, racing has been good fun to watch. And like you said, the last 10 minutes is really where things get hot and happening. I don't think they really plan for it to go that way, but it's kind of just the way that the race goes. You start to see that light at the end of the tunnel. You know you want to finish it, and if there's an opportunity and you're catching somebody, it's sort of the time that you've given yourself, that in that last 10 minutes, if you're not within that second to get that move done, you haven't given yourself enough time. So everybody from this sort of state, from 21 minutes down to that 10-minute stage, everybody served those pit stops. So the pit box window opened for 11 minutes without even needing to be utilized by any of the cars. So everybody's now pretty much in their end race positions, or the positions that they would like to potentially improve on. So out on track, not a lot of action happening between drivers. It's one of those sort of, I don't want to call it a lull stage, but the likes of McCall, Morgan McCall, Jay-Z Krobler, and Junior McCall, who were really giving us a bit of close on-track battle for a long time, have now sort of given themselves all a bit of space to one another. So that's kind of killed off the front-back battles. Krayling, he shows on his list as feeling some pressure from Daniel Rowe, and he will indeed, but Daniel Rowe will Oh, it's not Daniel Rowe that was coming out. That was Sherritt that made the lapping overtake onto Grayling. So almost missing out that bright pink livery in the darkness. But of course, Grayling just moving over. So the lap timing splits. Kurt Glasshagen showing that he's got someone on him. And again, it's just a lapping overtake coming through with our back markers being respectful of cars in laps ahead of them, you know, making sure to not impact their race and be the reason why there's been potential problems. So Vasaki is making up time here to the likes of Basson, and I think that Basson is maybe catching up to O'Connor. He's not. On the last lap, O'Connor still almost 4/10 quicker than Basson, with Vasaki being 7/10 faster than Basson. So it is Vasaki making the moves here towards the rear end of the number 38 Audi.
I think Basson's going to start realizing the pressure as soon as he checks that massive Bentley, start chasing him down and get right into it. So Basson, part of the Am to Play team, really showing what he can do, lying in 6th place. But Arno Vasaki has been one of those wild cards in the series where he either has this phenomenal race or he gets plagued with problems. Thankfully, this has been one of those races that he's just pulled out all the stops and really is giving it his all. As you said, the back markers giving the guys a bit of room, not interfering in their races. But it is a busy circuit. I mean, 19 minutes left. Anything can happen. That loss of focus through one of the corners can change your race. And these guys are constantly overtaking cars, getting overtaken. So the mental side of it is now where it comes in to last this extra 18 minutes and 42 seconds of the race right here at Kyalami. Ryan Ottens of Kai K really just trying to keep it going. He has got Herbert behind him, 8/10, and is really battling it out. Lovely to see that Nissan really giving it everything it can, but Ottens is starting to feel the pressure. He knows that Herbert's behind him and now has to be well aware of it. The Porsches seem to have the corners to sort it out, but Herbert is really giving it his absolute all. Morgan McCall battling his way around the circuit, 4.4 seconds behind Sherrod, but is doing everything he can to push that last little bit of hoorah, and giving that Lamborghini everything it's got out on the circuit. Absolutely phenomenal, and I think Morgan can be really happy with his performance in this race.
I love the night shots in Assetto Corsa Competizione. I think that Kunas really has outdone themselves with the way that the light reflects, rebounds, and kind of gets emitted from the cars. I think that the ambiance on the circuit is great. I love the little sparks that fly off when cars bottom out, and I love the glowing exhaust pipes from obviously the extremely hot exhaust tips. So I just love what the whole imagery of ACC at nighttime looks like. And you know, it's a different thing racing at nighttime. I think a lot of the drivers here today would contest for that. And if you're just a viewer watching through, you know, it's similar to the difference between driving during the daytime and nighttime in real life, except you're doing it you know, in a much faster car and trying to do it around very narrow circuits, and you're doing it based on braking points that you've memorized, which a lot of the time is done during the daytime. So you have to put a lot of time into being able to lap a circuit at nighttime and do it like the back of your hand. So a lot of trust goes into following cars around Kyalami. A lot of respect needs to be given on track, and for the most part it seems that these drivers are given just that, and it's allowed for some great side-by-side moments. And also some of the times it hasn't worked out and we've had some not so great side-by-side moments. At the end of the day, it's all part of the racing, and it's been part of the story to tell for this hour and 20 minute long race, which, you know, 80 minutes of racing at Kyalami is a long time, with a short lap time like the 140s if you are Jordan Sherritt, allows you to, you know, get into that sort of drone zone where you might lose yourself and make one slight mistake, there's not a lot of runoff, and that could end your race. We saw the likes of Masters, unfortunately, having a collision out, and that's forced him to retire from the race at this point. So one small mistake, you could be battling up in the front of the order, and it all gets undone. I see that Versace up into 7th place at this point. Kleb down in 9th. Darren King up into 8th place. He's going to be the one to start putting the pressure onto Versace now. So this could be an interesting battle with 15 minutes to go. Just for references, they sort of lapping at similar times. On a Versace seeming to, on best lap basis alone, be able to do a lap time that is 4/10 faster than Darren King at this point. But based on their last lap, it was Versace that was up 4/10 on King. So it will be interesting to see where things go down. Versace here, King has fallen out of the order here. King has dropped all the way down the order, and suddenly Versace finds himself right on the back end of Basson. And Basson, again, defensive work, talking about it. The amateur playboys seem to be able to do this. We saw Basson with an incredible race, a couple in the opening round, really, and he's been doing well since then. This man comes over from a keyboard. He was that was his input during the days of Project Cars 2 when I first got into the sim racing scene, and Novak, that's his gaming nickname, was jamming Project Cars 2 on a keyboard. Couldn't believe the pace that he was doing, pulling out victories over guys with wheels. And now that he's come over to ACC, he's on the wheel. He's at the sort of foundation phase built up from his team with amateur play doing just that. Another org that, again, I can just clap my hands to putting in some work to making their team better. They provide merch, and they've got all kinds of different things. So a team that doesn't have big funding or big backing like a big gaming organization to go out and have a social feed and a social media profile. It's what it's all about at the end of the day. And the amateur playboys, their liveries are almost iconic as they stand. They used to be white, red, and blue, I believe, and during the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which kicked off, which still goes on, they changed up their color schemes in support of that and have stuck with it since. And to be honest, it's a striking color scheme together. I'm a fan of it. And right now, Basson doing big work to hold off the likes of Versace.
Absolutely. Having a chat to the amateur play guys just before the race and hearing them, they all saying, listen, they're going to go in the race, they're going to give it the absolute all. Basson said he is going to aim for the top position. He wants to be in that top 10 and give it his all. I spoke to Arno Versace before the race as well, and all he said is he's taking the big Bentley and he wants to prove that the Bentley is something to fear around the circuit, and he's doing exactly that. As you can see, Basson really having to work hard, going as defensive as possible. Arno Versace really onto the back of him, gets into the slipstream and getting pulled along. But that Audi seems to have the corners absolutely nailed down compared to Arno Versace's Bentley, who is a lot heavier, now having to try and battle his way around. Basson losing a little bit of time though, goes a bit wide, giving Arno Versace just enough time to get really onto the back of him. And you can see how hard these guys are really pushing the cars to the absolute limit. Versace looks to the inside, decides rather not really doing everything he can. Basson feeling the pressure though, goes defensive, trying to force Arno Versace behind him to have a mistake. The guys are really battling out, but Versace really showing that Bentley is something to be feared around this circuit.
Traffic window is now closed.
I think Darren King, seeing what was going on, was licking his lips and going, all right, you guys keep doing, I'm coming. And absolutely phenomenal. Even though they're rubbing his racing here, swapping colors, these guys still managing to keep the cars together. As you can see, Arno Visaki once again looking to try to do the cutback. Had to slow up a little bit too much there. Lost a lot of momentum. Has to get in that toe and really put himself on. Basson showing that he can defend incredibly well. Arno Visaki pulling out moves wherever he can with that Bentley. And it's think Basson had a little bit of red mist there and just outbraked himself into the corner. But now it's turning into quite a race for him. Schutter is still under some serious pressure. Lewis is not giving him a gap at all and is really hunting him down. As Schutter has to play the defensive game with only 4 minutes and 50 seconds left of the race. As we said, the last 10 minutes of the race is going to be one to watch out for because the guys do everything they can to keep pushing, to keep that gap and try and take those last little positions as they battle their way around. Albertine now trying to keep himself going, opening up a little bit of a gap, but is trying to just keep his nose clean, keep focusing, and knuckle down on what needs to be done as he battles his way around the circuit for the remaining minutes of the race. Got to say, a little bit of a heartbreaking situation there, but I do see Arnold Starkey really pushing hard. He wants to try and go off the cliff as fast as possible to try and regain a position and get back onto King. JC Probler under pressure there as he's got McCall Junior McCall, the 12-year-old that is changing sim racing everywhere he goes. One of the few youngsters that we actually have in sim racing, and glad to see him going and putting on a hard charge here. But JC Probler really having to work hard to keep the ATK team at bay throughout this race.
And just an apology out to our viewers with some of the sound issues that have been plaguing the broadcast. Again, it's something that not 100% sure of the causes, but there are a couple of new things in the pipeline coming through from a production point of view to just make sure that all of that gets sorted out. So apologies once again for any of that, and if you guys did miss any of our commentary whilst there was some action happening out on track, that is completely unacceptable from us, and we hope to improve it in the future going forward. So with the closing rounds coming out, hopefully things can improve on that side of things, but the racing so far has been nothing short of interesting. We've seen some exciting overtake maneuvers. We've seen some very sad sort of red mist moments too, as you would like to put them. I think that was a good summary of the way to put something coming down. Some decent respect being shown by a couple of drivers as well out on track for, you know, giving each other the room that they require going around, and on the same edge of the coin sometimes not giving each other the same amount of room. So I guess it is racing at the end of the day, and that's why we have live stewards to make the calls, or should I not say live stewards, but stewards involved to post-race hand out penalties where, you know, drivers have been misbehaving. So minutes and 55 minutes remain on the clock. Jordan Sherritt is our current race leader, and I believe will be going on to his second last, or going on to the last lap in just a couple of seconds. And really, with all the battles out on track kind of easing themselves out, it looks like the likes of perhaps Peters and King will be fighting it out down for 20th and 21st. We get confirmation that Jordan Sherritt is on that final lap at this point in time.
I've got to say, it's been a very interesting race, if I can put it to that. The guys have really been showing what they can do. The pros really pushing the limits and taking each other to the next bit, and really trying to really trying to push the limits of themselves and their fellow competitors right to the end. And we've seen some interesting dynamics in terms of pit strategies between the early, mid, and late race pits. And here we go, Arno Fasaki on to Etienne Claire with only 40 seconds to go. Will Arno Fasaki be able to get past? He is battling his way around, trying to force Claire into a mistake, into a last little bit, but we've seen Claire can hold Arno at bay and knows how to go extremely defensive right around the circuit. So let's see, will Arno be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat? Goes a little bit wide, but a little bit of a touchy argy-bargy there. Claire still managing to keep the drive and managing to push as hard as he can. So
I'm
a little
not.
bit of hard work there.
I'm not 100% happy with driving standards that these drivers are showing each other. I think there's a little bit of something that we see contact coming in. Arno trying to switch back. We'll get onto the brakes, and nah, this is turned into something quite horrible. I think Versace and Kleb, not what we wanted to see. We'll see Sherritt finishing the race, and I just have to apologize for what we just saw on camera because I'm not quite sure how to explain it. But Jordan Sherritt takes a well-deserved race victory. Morgan McCall will take home second place. JZ Krobler fights it to the line. Third place for him with Junior McCall wrapping up with fourth. Cameron O'Connor, not quite on the same laps as the race leaders or towards the front end, but we'll be sending it down through the end of Crocodiles, through Cheetah, and finally Ingwe. And he will be very chuffed with taking home a fifth place in his number 92 Porsche. Darren King had a very interesting race indeed, and for him it was a terrible start to the proceedings. He's done a really good job to get himself back into the top 10 and comes out through Ingwe for the final time. Will be taking home sixth place for Fordzilla in his Ferrari. Arno Versace will then still round things off and will cross the line in seventh place, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some post-race investigations coming in to that. Ryan Ottens for Kaike will take home a well-deserved 8th place. Paul Gerber for Team Tryhard Racing, powered by our stream sponsors as well, Resource Complete. 9th place for them in the top 10. Sponsors will love that from the GTR. Christos Besson with 10th place, and that will round out our top 10 for the proceedings. And a bit of a good race overall. Some interesting maneuvers coming out at the end. Like I said, I apologize to our viewers if there were some things that were caught on camera that we potentially didn't want to see. But at the end of the day, it was a good race overall for our front runners. Jordan Sherritt really showing what it's like to be a dominant race leader. Stephen, it was an absolute pleasure having you here today. I'm going to wrap things up fairly quickly this evening. But, once again, thanks so much for coming through and, joining this evening.
Thank you very much for having me, and a big thank you to the guys coming in, watching the racing as we finish up with round 4, heading into round 5 next week with the GT4s on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be something to watch.
So I will see you guys next week, Wednesday, as we go to round 5 for the GT4s. The GT3s will be back on Thursday, same time, same place, Raceface.Pro. If you guys want to sign up for anything, you guys can do that as well. But, guys, thank you so much for joining us.